So here it is, part 2, which is also what part 8 on this futurologist concept. So we're looking at Zechariah chapter 3. And this is a bit confusing, you might say, at least to me. It says, it starts off in chapter 3, this is an angel showing Zechariah something. Then he showed me Joshua the Kohen Gadol. Well, that word Joshua is actually Yeshua, Yod He Vav Shin Ayin, Yahusha, standing before the angel of Yahweh, and the Satan was standing on his right to accuse him. The angel of Yahweh said to Satan, may Yahweh denounce you, O Satan. May Yahweh who chooses Jerusalem denounce you. Indeed, this man is like a firebrand saved from a fire. If you have a big pile of sticks and you pull one stick out to save it from getting burned up, okay, that's kind of like that, but it's like, what's he talking about? You could read the previous first couple chapters. If you go back into chapter 2, it says in verse 12, for thus says Yahweh Zevot, after glory, whatever that means, he will send me to the nations who despoil you, for whoever touches you touches the pupil of his own eye. Jerusalem, in particular, is almost like the center of Elohim's focus of attention. It's not the city, it's the people doing what he said to do. That city was just kind of like the capital, the target bullseye. Whoever touches you, whoever touches the city, whoever touches Yahuwah's people, and not just people who says, oh yeah, I chose life, but the people who are listening, the people who have made Yahuwah himself and his words and his ways like David's heart, the focus of their attention, the focus of their heart, the center. The pupil is also known as the little man in the eye, and it's also known as your most valuable treasure. Of all things you have as you walk the face of the earth, your eye is your most valuable treasure, is what is said. So for Yahuwah's eye to be on his people and his people who listen to his voice and discuss amongst themselves his stuff. It goes on, it's a great thing. End of chapter 2, Yahweh will, verse 16 and 17, Yahuwah will take Yehuda, Judah, as his heritage, his portion upon the Holy Land, and he will choose Jerusalem again. That phrase, once again, is used elsewhere, and I'd have to look at what's used here. It's me'od, or ayin vav dalet, which literally means not just again, or once again, it means again and again, repeatedly and forcefully. So again, if you read the verse, well, Yahweh will again choose, or one more time choose Jerusalem. It's like, well, did that time already happen? Does he still care? Well, it's every time. It's continually. It's repeatedly and forcefully. Ayin vav dalet. So if his moedim, mem vav ayin dalet, his witness and testimony, and when David talks about your testimonies, that's the word ayin dalet vav tavs, the things that bear witness, the things that he has said testify of him, letters, the moedim, the commands. What is it to be one of his testimonies? But if the word ayin vav dalet means again and again, always, repeatedly, that's a picture of his heart. Oh, until he nailed it to the cross and said, I'm done with all that stuff. That was so yesterday. That was so Old Testament. I've got a new thing going. But you see, that's what's being taught. Two different people, completely different faith base. One's Protestant, one's Greek Orthodox, and they both have said to me, there's no law. He did away with all that. He changed it. I'm so happy that he changed it. I don't think it's true. Last verse of chapter 2, be silent, all flesh, before Yahuwah, for he is aroused from his, says here, holy abode. It's like, don't poke the bear. Don't stir the dragon. He's asleep. Just let him. A sleeping dog's lie. We don't want to stir up that guy. What is it that stirs him up? Going on to chapter 3 here, Joshua was dressed in filthy garments as he stood before the angel. Is this Yeshua? Is that the guy that lived 2,000 years ago that's known as JC, Jesus Christ? Or is this some other high priest named Joshua? I don't know. I don't know if anybody knows. But if Yeshua is God, if Jesus Christ is God, then this makes no sense. So this must be some other guy named Yeshua, who's a high priest. But if Yeshua, that guy, Yahusha, that lived 2,000 years ago, was in the capacity of a Adam, son of man, there is some link to Elohim, but what is that? Well, that's doctrine. Can't wrap my mind around it. Doesn't mean I'm bad for not being able to wrap my mind. It means that he didn't give us the capacity to really exactly understand it, which is why even the bishops and cardinals say it's a mystery. You just have to believe it. Joshua is dressed in filthy garments as he stood before the angel. The angel spoke up and said to those standing before him, saying, remove the filthy garments from upon him. Is the filthy garments his Adam flesh? I mean, we're dressed in this flesh of humanity, if you want to use that word, humanity, Adamness. Are these the filthy garments? Yeah, but he rose from the dead with a new body. Is that the removing of the filthy garments? I'm just speculating. I don't know. Then they said to him, see, I've removed your iniquity from upon you. Did he have iniquity? He took upon himself the sin of the world, as it said. Let them put a pure turban on his head, a hat. So they put a pure turban on his head, and they dressed him in clean garments, while the angel of Yahweh remained standing. Verse 6 here, the angel of Yahweh then warned Joshua, saying, thus says Yahweh Zevaot, if you go in my ways, and if you safeguard my watch, and you administer my temple, and you also guard my courtyards, then I will grant you strides among these angels who stand here. Well, then that's not Yahusha. What do you mean, if you walk in my way and you do? God the Father's talking to God the Son and say, you better behave yourself. And if you do the right thing, then I'll let you stand amongst these angels. Wasn't he the king of all the angels? See, the logic doesn't work. And I'm saying this on purpose. The logic doesn't work. If I say that this guy is that guy JC from 2,000 years ago, well, what gives me the right to say I'm allowed to wrap my logical mind around this text? Remember that word saber, samik bet resh, we ran into in Revelation? Think, argue, logic, conjecture, hypothesis, opinion. What's it sound like? Let's discuss it. David was saying, I want to know your statutes, I want to know your ordinances and your commands so that I can discuss them. With who? With his pals, his friends, under the vine and under the fig tree, at the end of this chapter 3. If you will safeguard my watch, well, then if he's not talking to Yeshua, he's talking to some other earthman named Yeshua, could be any one of us. So then I can read this verse 7 and say, here's what Yahweh Zevaot in this heavenly scenario, this is the burden, the obligation that he's imposing on the shoulders of this high priest, Cohen hagadol. If, and see, he's just said, he didn't say you better. He said, if you go, then see, he's leaving it up to this man to determine for himself. It's not a threat, promise. If you go in my ways, that's halakha my derek. And if you safeguard my watch, well, actually what it says in Hebrew, if you shemer what I said to shemer, if you see memresh, mem shin memresh, guard the things I said to guard. Watch what I said to watch. In other words, do what I said. And if you administer my temple, the word there is tav dalet yod nun, aleph tav hyphen with bet yod tav yod. They call it administer my temple, but it's dalet yod nun, judge my house? How's that administer in my temple? So that's where the only way to know what this is really talking about is to know how to read, to look at the words themselves. Dalet yod nun in the dictionary, judge, decide, determine, sufficient, enough. The word dalet yod, die. It also means this. It's also the word for law. But if you look at, I think it's with the tav dalet, it also means contend, quarrel, argue, logical deduction, and to plead the cause as an attorney in a court case. In other words, as David had requested, I'm going to study your statutes. I'm going to look at your ordinances. I'm going to wrap my heart, wrap my mind, so that when I discuss them, I am arguing for, I'm contending for Yahweh, your stuff, your way, your mind, your heart. I want to be your protege, your apprentice, your sidecar girl, as it were, the one riding in the sidecar. I want to be that for you. I want to know your stuff, and I want to promote your stuff, and I want it to be accurate. Will you please make it accurate for me? Help me get this right, because I want to be my mouth speaking your mouth stuff, which is what he said somewhere else. That's Tav Dalet Yod Nun. And the word for house or bet is also, see, bet Yod Tav Yod. Well, bet Yod Tav, that's house. So Yod suffix, my house. But bet Yod means with me, in me, through me. And the Tav Yod is a suffix meaning I have or I will. And it's not just house like the building, but it's teaching and to be domestic, meaning to be of the house, meaning if he wants you to take your shoes off, you take your shoes off. If you want you to use a napkin or a certain towel, use that napkin or the certain towel. You don't just wipe your face on the curtain on the wall by the window. You do what he wants you to do. That's one of the things he's saying. If you'll guard the things I said to guard, and if you will also be able to argue my house rules, which is what we're doing right now. And also, there's another thing, guard my, well, the word here is spelled het zadi resh yod, cha zari. Well, zadi resh is a rock, like Mitzrayim. This is cha zar. If you look it up in the dictionary, it means blow the trumpet. If you watch my blowing the trumpet, it's also an enclosure, a hamlet to be surrounded by a wall. It's one of the things in the enclosure of the chet, courtyard, janitor, courtier. So I remember seeing pictures like Days of King Arthur in castles, and they have half a dozen guys lined up, and they've got those long, straight trumpets with the banners hanging off them. Yeah, those are called courtiers. Or Queen Elizabeth had, Sir Francis Drake and William Shakespeare and Sir Francis Bacon. Were those her courtiers? Those the guys that hung out in the court. That's what this word is. To hang out in the court, whether you're blowing the trumpet or if you look at a derivative word, this is het zadi resh. If you look at het zadi vav zadi resh, it means trumpet. Het zadi yod resh means greenery or herbage, like in the garden or like in the court. That's why there's green. There was green inside the courtyard. It's kind of like this protected garden area. I have given to you, if you will guard the stuff inside the chet, that we're supposed to, when are we supposed to blow the trumpet? When we do what he said to do. There's another verse in Numbers about that. Blow the shofar whenever you're doing what I said to do, and then when you're in trouble, your enemies are on your back, blow the shofar and I'll, hey, I know that voice. Hey, look it, and I'll come to your rescue. That's what he said. There's a very specific correlation between blowing the shofar in obedience and blowing the shofar when we need rescue. And then he says, mem he lamed kaf yod mem. Notati, I have given or I have taught to you the place of he lamed kaf, the mem of he lamed kaf. The one who will walk, the way to walk. Then the word between, bet yod nun, being, which also means relay, compare, become wise, explain, comprehend, understand, consider. Ha amadim, hey aleph, or ayin mem dalet, plural, yod mem. Hey aleph lamed hey. Well, Allah, aleph lamed hey means to be deified. So it says the one standing here, oh, that must be angels. Didn't say angels. See, I read the Stone's Tanakh translation, which has some added words that are italicized or put in brackets. So if you write down the actual words, I have taught to you the way to walk, become wise, explain, comprehend, understand, the amadim, these which are of Elohim, the aleph lamed hey aleph lamed hey. But what is amadim? Remember, there's that thing in Jeremiah 23. Do you know the Amad Basodi? Secret council. Amad is standing like arranged in columns, and Basod is the foundation that holds up the columns. So something arranged in columns. But Dalet Yod there, distinguished and separated, established, instituted. These 22 letters, there he goes again, it's all about the alphabet. These 22 letters are fixed in a certain arrangement as if they were standing columns, dominoes, or like what they would call Corinthian columns in the Parthenon, it's in Athens, I believe. What did he establish and institute and arrange in columns, each one separate from the next, but there's a way to compare, comprehend in between how he said to walk and the things that he arranged in columns. It's like he arranged the 7 Moedim. He arranged the 22 letters. Can you stand in between this other chart I'll make reference of here? That we talked about before. I had called the meta at first, which was what's between the letters? What's the space between them? Metabasis, metaphor, metaphase, metalepsy, metabol. It's based on this. I have taught you how to walk based on looking what's between these matters that I've established. That word between is understand it enough that you can teach it with clarity, with wisdom, comprehending. Then you get into verse 8. It says, hear now, Shema, Shin Mem Ayin, Yahusha, which basically means he will save, or Yahweh saves, or... So if I'm saying this isn't talking necessarily about Yahusha, the guy who lived 2,000 years ago, It says it's the Kohen Hagadol, Yehusha HaKohen Hagadol. But the priest, Kaf Hey Nun. Kaf Hey is the word for yes, to validate. Hey Nun is behold here gladly. So the salvation of Yah, here gladly, is the reality. The Gadol, Gimel Dalet Vav Lamed, great, high, festoon, celebrated. So if I was going to say, let's take the phrase Yeshua the high priest and say it's the true salvation. Look, this is the valid, and it's to be celebrated because it's outstanding, it's outrageous, it's incredible. Those same three words are simply Yehusha the high priest. So I'm trying to show you the conflict difference in seeing what a word means versus what it says versus another way to get it. And then when it says you, that's Aleph Tav Hey, but I could look at that as the Aleph Tav expressed, revealed, manifest, on display. The salvation of Yahweh, which is the true matter with celebrated festoonery, banners and ribbons and trumpets, and what's the Aleph Tav on display? Can you see it? The next word is Vav Resh Ayin Yod Kaf. Well, Resh Ayin is the word for evil, wicked, harm, but it's also friend, shepherd, noise, shout, purpose, intention. Your friend, your purpose, your intention, your what's really going on inside you, which is why you do what you do, which is why you are who you are, which is why you go on whatever mission you choose to go on. Build a house, mow the lawn, cook some breakfast, or save the world. Why is it you do what you do? And again, it's not just saying, oh yeah, it's Yehusha 2,000 years ago. It's like you, it's me. It's like right now, but it's also your friend. So, and then it says, hey Yod Shin Bet Yod Mem. Well, Shin Bet is the root of the word Shabbat, Shin Bet Tav. Yod Shin Bet, it means again, very similar to Ayin Vav Dalet. It means sit, dwell, return, restore, renovate, come back again, Teshuvah. Deuteronomy 30, return to these words that I command you this day, was Shin Bet Tav. So Shabbat is to return to Shabbat. Find it interesting that the one thing he said to remember is the one commandment that everybody forgets, and the thing that he provided to come back to as the proof of us returning to listen to his words, because otherwise we wouldn't have any reason to regard as Shabbat. Out of all the commandments, just an interesting thing. So he's talking about having this return with an intention. Then the word lifneka, paneh is face, presence, countenance, or focus of attention, like having your eye on Jerusalem, or like us having our eye caught in the rut, the furrow of Ayin Nun Hey. Pay attention, respond to what he said, look at his words, think of his words. Those same verb actions I read for the first 7 verses, 7 sections, which is 56 verses, 7 times 8 of Psalm 119 a few minutes ago. With David's focus of attention was, I want to get it. I want this stuff because I know it'll set up the rest of my life. Futurologist. Kaf Yod, because, so, thus, when, while. Anashi, that's a man, Anash, but it's to be anthropomorphized, feminized, weak, sick, people personified. And then here's this word, mem vav pei tav, mofat, muppet, exemplary, miracle, wonder, proof, or demonstration. Then hey mem hey, which is these or they or them. He, Kaf Yod, because I, here, hineni, here I am, mem bet Yod Aleph, bet Aleph, or means to import or arrive or to come into. At the time, the mem, be the time of coming into, Aleph Tav Obedi, my servant worshiper. And the last word of this sentence is zamach, which is to sprout, flourishing, veggie, appear, grow. So let's back up real quick. So he says in this verse 8, hear now the true, incredible salvation of Yahweh, revealing Aleph Tav, the purpose, the intention being restored, your face being personifying exemplary miracle demonstration. These here I am inputting to my servants, my servants flourishing. So this verse 8 is a condition of revival, resurrection, renaissance, a condition of whatever was dormant, whatever was held hidden is turned into a sprouting. What's anthropomorphized? Anashi. They said, you and your companion standing with you, worthy of a miracle. Worthy of a miracle? What's that mean? The phrase worthy of a miracle is ki anashi mofat hama. I don't think it's talking about his friends. I think it's saying that the miraculous thing that he's going to impart to his obedi, his servants, the reality, which is Yeshua HaKohen HaGadol Atah, HaRoika. When we get it, that his salvation, the truth of his salvation is not just about Yeshua dying on the cross, but it's everything he said is true, is lasting, is regenerative. And everything David is talking about in Psalm 119 is David saying, either I have realized this, I want you to help me realize it more, or I have believed that this is the truth. So I study your words. Look, I'm studying your words. Look, I'm talking about your stuff. Give me the accuracy, because David had, you might say, his finger on the pulse. He knew there was something alive and something bigger and something more that he wasn't quite tapping into. So in verse 18 of Psalm 119, David says, open my eyes that I may see the nephalot, the paleo, the nooned paleo in plural, nephalot, could be read the hidden meanings of your letters. The Aleph Tav can mean letters of the alphabet. It's as a sign, as a symbol, as an oath. He said, you promised. I heard you say that you would do this. I remember you said, you promised. So will you please give me hope? Will you please give me comfort? Will you please heal me? Would you please keep me living so that I can proclaim your words? I will discuss with people what you put in my heart. That's what David said repeatedly through Psalm 119, which we'll get into shortly here in another matter of weeks. But this verse 8, I believe, is expressing what David sensed or saw or felt is the reality of the significance of Yahuwah's words in the Torah. And so again, anybody who says, done away with, nailed to the cross, we don't need no stinking Torah, they're wrong. They don't get it. They don't see it. Verse 9, Ki hana, so thus, behold, here gladly, ha'eben, the stone, asher, that, natati, I have given, or I have taught, lifnei, belonging to my face, my countenance, Yahusha, Yahweh's salvation, ayin lamed eben. So they say it means toward stone achat, one. Ayin lamed is yoked to, aleph bet nun. Well, if aleph bet nun means I will, as a good son, be about my Father's desire with my passion engaged in action, then the word achat, which is translated singular one, also means, well, what's a chet? The reason I went on about the aleph, about the chet, is because this is aleph chet tav. Chet tav is where you stand. It's what's under your feet, which also means the reason why you're doing something. Somebody insulted me when I was young, so now I am embarrassed. So what's under your feet? The insult when you were young. That's why you do what you do. I stumbled, and so now I'm afraid to run. Something happened, so now or somebody complimented me, so now I feel courageous. That's chet tav. It's the basis of your behavior, but it also means show. If I look at chet tav hey, this is aleph chet tav, it means show, declare, press, or piece together obstacle, terror, and fear. One, join together. If you take something patchwork, take a bunch of scraps and join them all together to make one, that's the word chet tav. If I take all these 22 letters and hook them all together so that I can see them as one unit, that's aleph tav hed. That's one, that's a oneness, that's an aleph chet tav. But then he says, regarding, or ayin lamed, one stone, or regarding the aleph bet nun of oneness, 7 eyes, shin bet ayin hey, ayin yod nun yod mem. Somebody's mic is open.
Poet. Oh, sorry.
If I looked at 7, it means vow, or to satisfy the vow, or to get cursed for not fulfilling your oath, which is the vow. And if I look at ayin, eyes, not only does it mean eyeball, it means weigh carefully, measure precisely, balance exactly, determine meticulously. It's to scrutinize what something is. And if I'm going to scrutinize this, piece it together, I've got to completely wrap my mind and heart around it to satisfy the vow. What vow? There's one great vow in the entire Bible. Mount Sinai, Yahweh spoke, and the people said, everything Yahweh says we will hear and we will do. I think they said that 3 times. And Yahweh said, oh, if only this heart would remain consistent. I know it's not going to, but if only it would. Boy, that would be so great. So what? Really? He wants us to have that heart? Okay, let's have that heart. Let's swear that vow. Everything Yahweh says, we will hear it and we will do. Too bad, too late. It was nailed to the cross and done away with. Or was it? It's preached. It's taught in Orthodox, Catholic, and 80,000 variations of Protestant churches that the words of Yahweh, the commandments, the law, the Torah of Yahweh was done away with, nailed to the cross, no longer worthwhile, significant, important, or regardable, other than a matter of history. I don't believe any of that's true. Why? Because of ironing the Shavah. For me to weigh, measure, balance exactly the great vow, for Yahweh to say, I am your Elohim and you will be my people. That's a vow. Every word out of his mouth is a vow of Kaf Hey, Kaf Nun. Absolutely true. Verily, verily, truly, truly. Nam Yahweh's a vote. Every word out of his mouth doesn't need any other additional stuff. It's let your yes be yes, your no be no, and what Yahweh said. And I refuse to go along with the doctrine that says he changed it because it came out of his mouth. And David even said in one verse, let the words out of my mouth be according to what the words are that come out of your mouth. That heart condemns Christianity as satanic. Is that true now? The very next thing he said is, Hineni, here I am, mem pe tav het, me patach, pe tav het he, patacha. And then he stamps it, nam Yahweh zavot. Me patach patacha. It's translated, I am engraving its adornments. What the? I'm engraving its adornments. Mem pe tav het. What do you do when you engrave something? You cut into the body. You cut into the piece of wood and you leave a mark, a word, a design, a pattern. You cut into a piece of metal with a grinding wheel and you leave something that could be seen. It's cutting something open. Pe tav het means something that's openable. Pe tav het he then means it is opened. Mem pe tav het is the tool which does the opening. And it's similar to the word that says exemplary, miracle, wonder, proof, demonstration. That word spelled mem vav pe tav, missing the het, but it's adding a mem prefix. But what I'm saying is it's a similar word. What's the miracle, wonder, proof, or demonstration? I'm going to open its, well, if you look at pe tav het, hey, in the dictionary it says possessing sight, not blind or no longer blind. Untied, set free, developed, to begin. It's at the gateway. It's like, look at a horse race and they have all those gates and all of a sudden the alarm goes off, the gates open and the horses are, we can run. They take off running down the track. That moment of opening the gates is pe tav het he. To expound. To talk about this stuff is mem, the occasion of pe tav het he. Because mem pe tav het is also a key, or a key which unlocks a door. It's an index. It's a registration, a registry, an alignment by which everything can be seen for what it is that was otherwise lost and obscured and missing. It's the opening tool of being able to see what Yahweh said, Nam Yahweh Zavot. The next thing he says is Vav Mem Shin Tav Yod. Well, Mem Shin Tav is a banquet, a feast. Tav Yod is to draw out. Moshe is to draw out. Tav Yod is I've drawn out, or I've provided a banquet. Aleph Tav Ayin Vav Nun. Well, Ayin Vav Nun is, they say it's iniquity of the Eretz. The whole world, I'm going to forgive the iniquity of the world all in one day. Well, was that when Yeshua died on the cross, or was that when Yeshua resurrected from the grave? Or does it have nothing to do with Yeshua at this point? Because he says, here I am providing a key for understanding your ignorance and blindness. And if Ayin Vav Nun means iniquity, it also means seasonal suffering. Hey, Ayin Vav Yod Hey means grimace or to pull a face. It's like, you should go back under the lots. Like that. It's like, yeah, like that. It's like, yeah, like that. Any reaction to pull a face about doing what Yahweh said is that word, because it reveals the heart, the mem nun of our reaction to the kaf lamed. Even though we've chosen life, het tet yod, well, Jesus said I didn't have to. Really? Well, that's what they told me. That was part of the conditions of entering, choosing life. So there's a liar standing at the gate. And there's somebody telling the truth, presenting the Torah. Which one do you want to believe? You going to pull a face? He goes on to say, Beyom Achad, or on one day he's going to do this. And then the next verse, verse 10, which is the last verse of our consideration, last verse of the chapter of Zechariah 3 here, it says, Beyom Hahua, on the same day, Nam Yahweh's vote stamps it again. Tav Kufresh Alephav. Kufresh Aleph, that's that word that means gather, assemble, but it also means learn how to read. On the same day, learn how to read, but it also means invite. Ish man lamed resh ayin hevav, his friend. On that day, a man will invite his friend to learn how to read. Aleph lamed tav het tav. Well, tav het tav means under, towards under Geffen. Gimel pei nun. Well, that's the word vine. Vav aleph lamed tav het tav, and under tav aleph nun hey. Well, that's fig tree. On that day, on the same day, any man will invite his friend to sit under the vine and under the fig tree and learn how to read. The word for vine, gimel pei nun. Well, nun is a suffix action of being involved in some sort of action. So gimel pei, look at gimel pei pei. It means hugged, encircled, and embraced. Very similar to that word, the enclosure inside the chet. But hey, gimel pei hey. So this is just the word vine, gimel pei nun. I'm saying put the other prefix letter hey in the hey suffix. Hey, gimel pei hey. It tells you the essence of gimel pei, and it means shutting. But see, that's the opposite of pei tav chet, which is the opening. So they're going to get under the vine and discuss the shutting. Gimel pei hey is also a hedge, that which contains, keeps you in. It's the top part of a shoe, what you'd call the vamp of a shoe. You have a shoe is composed of the sole and the upper, the vamp. And so that which holds your feet enclosed, putting a deck on a boat, it's the same word. But it also means hands and feet, back, body, wing, handle, rim, riverbank. If you're on a riverbank and you've got a wall on both sides, you're on a freeway and you've got concrete walls on both sides where you're trapped in this rut, that's gimel pei. Fine. Each man with his friends are going to learn how to read what has shut them out of the kingdom, what has shut them out of receiving the blessings that Yahweh promised, what has shut down the light, what has shut down the understanding of who Yeshua really is, what the Torah really is. What about fig tree? Aleph Nun Hey is a ship or a vessel. It also means lament, groan, deceived, something caused, or a lament caused by a deception. Reminds me of the Garden of Eden. Why is it you guys got kicked out of the garden? Well, the Nakash deceived Eve, and then Eve was compelled to Adam, and yeah, like that. What was the cause? A deception of lament and groan. It's also overreached, which means you did something beyond the boundary. So a boundary is marked. Don't eat the fruit of that tree. The word to mark a boundary is tav aleph hey, similar to the hedge of the gimel pei, similar to the chet of the chet zadi resh. What I'm saying is that if you see in Hebrew here, three in this case, different words that talk about I'm going to enclose you with a hedge, a garden, a protected place. But to do that, achet, you've got to learn my commands and keep my commands. And for David to realize that and say, I'm only going to study your statutes, your ordinances, your precepts, your law, your testimony, and I'm going to become an expert at what that means. So I can discuss and argue and contend in your favor against all opposition, whether they're dressed in fancy robes and have letters after the name and wear funny hats or not, one way or the other, or they're carrying military equipment. Tav Vav Aleph Nun Hey. Look at Tav Aleph Nun Hey. Put a Vav in there, it means excuse. Tav Vav Aleph Mem, usually Mem instead of the Nun, means suitable or conforming. I'm just mentioning that because it's more evidence that what this means is the word fig, as in fig tree, means excuse for being deceived and overreaching the boundary that had been imposed by Yahuwah's voice. All that's the word fig tree. And for a man to invite his fellow friend, neighbor, companion to learn how to read and sit under the vine and fig tree is, let's talk about Yahuwah's stuff. What did he say? What did he mean? Why is the preacher telling us disregard what he said? Why is the rabbi telling us pay no attention to Yeshua? We've got gatekeepers who are thieves and liars. We need to be the people for ourselves to learn how to read, look at his word, because there's a banquet. There's a Mem Shin Tov that he has a feast available. And I see in this Paleo Hebrew that he has provided a mafetach petacha, a key for opening what was locked, an index for being able to iron according to the vow. I can weigh, measure, balance, perceive, comprehend, understand, weave it all together, and it all fits. It all works. And it gives honor to Yeshua. It gives honor to the Torah. It gives honor to every word of Nam Yahweh Zavot. Now, if somebody else were to suggest, golly, that's not what it means at all. Really? Tell us what this means. I'm suggesting that anybody who applies this mechanism of mefetach petacha the Mishkan pattern is the key. Ayin Dalet, Ayin Tav, knowing the meanings of the letters. And what did Yeshua mean when he says, I'm the door to my father's house, my father's bet, my father's, see, they'll translate the word temple or palace, but it's like it's to be taught, trained, and domesticated, to be of his house. You have to be able to read the words, read past the words, through the words, navigate. If you look at the word hey gimel hey, it means to spell a word, speech, sound, rudder, helm, steering wheel. But hey gimel hey is also a camel's thorn, or what's a certain type of briar called camel thorn, which it forms a hedge. Hey gimel hey then also means to be removed, driven back, castrated, or pierced through. It's like he's surrounded. You know, that word Haggah means to navigate, but it also means he's blocked us. Variations of the word, derivatives. Hey Vav Gimel Noon. Hogan. There was a like Hogan's Heroes, a TV show. Real smart guy, pretty clever way he'd do stuff, kind of like MacGyvered situations. There was a grocery store, used to be called Hagen's, same word, Hey Gimel Noon. It means thinker, philosopher, worthy, proper, suitable, and young camel. It's like, young camel, what's a young camel got to do with a thinker and philosopher? Worthy, proper, suitable. But see, if you relate it to Hey Gimel Hey being a camel's thorn forming a hedge, and Yahweh said, don't touch that tree, don't eat the fruit. If you touch it, if you're cleaning up, but don't eat the fruit of that tree, boom, that's the camel thorn. That's the hedge. When he says in Jeremiah and in Hosea, where he says, I'm going to kick you out of here and you're going to go wander, but I'm going to hedge you in with thorns and you're never going to find your path until you come back to me. Well, thank you. Hey Gimel Yod Gimel, musing, meditation, imagination. Hey Gimel Yod Hey, meditation, pronunciation. Hey Gimel Yod Vav Nun, resounding music, reading, logic, respectable, suitable, decency. It's what fits, what's right, what's accurate. Think about it. Use your logic. Hey Gimel Vav Nun, Or hey gimel vav yod, steering, navigation, pronounced, think of, and then hey gimel hey, correction of a text. And then you get Malachi 3:16. Then those who had a fear of Yahweh got together and talked about his Shem, his name, fame, reputation, all his concerns. They made it their business, their preoccupation. An interesting thing about that word for to be preoccupied, which is used just, I think, 3 times here in Psalms 119, these first verses, is spelled Aleph, Shin, Tav, Ayin, Shin, Ayin. So as I've said that yods and vavs can be dropped in between letters as wildcards, tavs also can be, and this is one of the cases where it is. Aleph is the prefix letter, means I will. Shin, Ayin, shasha, that's the word delight. But it's translated twice here as preoccupied, or make it your occupation, which is a synonym with ayin, nun, hey, which is to focus, to respond to what he said by focusing and making it your life, making it your attention. And David, on record there in Psalm 119, says, hey, look at me, looking at you. That's what I'm doing. I'm looking at you. I'm wrapping my heart around your stuff. That's who I am. Oh, yes, you're also the musician and the great warrior. Yeah, whatever. I'm about you, Yahuwah. Take note, please. Give me more. Facilitate so that I'm not wrong. My only claim to fame is I want to be about your stuff. And in the by and by, yeah, there'll be whatever comes of that. It's got to be good, but it's whatever it is. It's like rewards in heaven, whatever. We know each other. We recognize each other because it ain't no fake J-man. It ain't no lying spirit. No deceivious Holy Spirit, which ain't holy at all. If there's going to be some kind of doctrinal, some kind of hyper charismatic manifestation that is so slick, so good, so that even if possible, the very elect would be deceived. It's the attitude, I believe, of reading Yahweh's words and knowing who he is because of what he said, which is the one thing that'll keep us on the track of not being deceived. At least that's my take on it. Anyway, we're at stopping time here, I believe. But anyway, Real One, his album in his father's name, because his father said so, because that's who his father is, because that's his father's desire, because that's the things that matter to my father. The word father, Aleph, Bet, Yod, can be that's what matters. What matters to him? He gave us 7 eyes on one stone, 7 ways of looking at, of weighing, measuring, and balancing, 7 ways of looking at what it means to be his son. Well, then if you plug in the Mishkan pattern, one way to look at it is choose life. Another way to look at it is, what did he say? Another way to look at it is, I got to have a heart all about his stuff. Another way to look at it is simply do what he said to do, bear his fruit, bear the fruit of his kingdom. Another thing he said to do is look out for one another and remember the precept, the prevailing precept of the universe is whatever you do is coming back on your own head. Talk about it. Talk about it in prayer and in song and in discussion with each other. Talk about it. He wants us to talk about it. Hey, lining up with the Ark of the Covenant and the Zodi, the hope set before you. Have that hope. Have that expectation. Those are 7 ways to see every single thing he ever said. 7 ways to observe. Am I a good son? Am I doing what my father asked me to do? Have I distracted? Have I failed? Have I fallen? Have I gone on my own way according to my own desires, or am I doing what he wanted me to do? I think the phrase 7 eyes upon one stone is to say there's these 7 ways lining up with the Mishkan pattern correlated to the Moedim. There's 7 different perspectives by which I can look at Aleph, Bet, Nun. Am I Alephing being the Bet engaged in Nun action? Anyway, that's it for today. Yahweh Kam. I'll hit the off button. Oh, yeah, somebody want to close in prayer? We can throw that on there.
Thank you, Yahuwah, for today. Thank you for Eric and the message. I give you praise, thanks, esteem, glory. Thank you for my brothers and sisters here. And we all get to talk about your things. And I pray your blessing, your light, your love, your shalom upon each and every one of us this day as we go out to be lights in this world, as you made us to be, shining brightly, proclaiming your name and your righteousness, Yahuwah, and all that you've given us and your blessings, your loving mercy, kindness. Oh yeah, thank you, Yahuwah. Baruch atah Yahweh, for you are kadosh. You just are Yahuwah. You are one. You are one. Yeah. Thank you, Yahuwah. Pray, blessed brothers and sisters. Thank Eric for the talk today. And yeah, Yahuwah Ankam. Baruch atah Yahweh.
Amen. Yahweh Kam. Baruch atah Yahweh.